Hello and welcome to Cellphone Basics, a technology basics video brought to you by the Kaukauna Public Library. This video will cover the most frequent tips or questions that I get asked every day regarding cell phones. You'll learn how to do things like change the brightness on your phone, change the icons in the home screen, learn what the home screen is, and many more things. First of all, cell phones use two different operating systems, mainly. There's more than this, but these are the two main ones. Most people either have an Apple phone, which runs the iOS operating system. Otherwise, you can have Android operating system made by Google. And an operating system is just the software that makes your phone run, basically. You need an operating system to use your phone. And so for the rest of this presentation, I'm going to show you how to do the things that I talk about, each task, if you have an Apple and if you have an Android. The tasks they're pretty similar, but the menus look different and so do the icons. So it's good to know how. I need to show people how to do both because there's many people with both of these devices out there. So on the home screen, this is what it looks like for an iOS device on the left and an Android on the right. I'm going to go through the 6 features of the home page or the home screen so you know what to look for. So first, you see the red arrow here. The first is just the quick access or your shortcuts. All these icons along the bottom, you can swap them out for different things depending on what you use the most frequently. It's kind of like just the things you use the most, you want them down there so that you always know right where they are. And then you just touch them and then they open right up. Second, you have apps on your home screen. These are all the apps. You can see they can fill the whole page or just be a few high, depending on your preferences. These are the apps that you install from your App Store or from the Play Store, which we'll cover later in the video. They're automatically added to your home page when you do that, and this is your home page here. This can also scroll to the right or the left, depending on your settings. Number 3 is the home button, and to return home. And on the Android on the right there's a circle button for it. You just touch it. And if you're in any app, it'll take you out of the app and take you back to this home screen. On iOS, it's a gesture. There's no button there. You have to swipe up from the bottom of the screen, and then it'll take you back to the home screen once you're in an app. And fourth, this is how you view the apps that are currently running on your device. It's very useful to use this button because it'll allow you to close those apps. So touching that button once will bring up kind of like a preview of all the apps that are on your phone, and you can then either press the X button on those, or sometimes there's a close all button, or you can swipe up on those apps to get rid of them, to close them, because what it's doing is it's taking up your phone's battery by running those in the background. So unless you explicitly close them with this button, it'll be running in the background and draining your battery. So on Android, it's the square. You just touch that right by the number 4. On iOS, you have to swipe your finger up and then hold for a few seconds, and then that screen will come up. So it's the same as the last step, the return home, but instead of swiping your finger quickly, you swipe up and hold it there for a second. Number 5 is the back button. On Android, it's the triangle pointing to the left. On iOS, you drag your finger from off the screen on the left side of the phone to the middle quickly. That'll take you back to the previous screen, and that's different than the home button. Some people get those mixed up. The home button always takes you back to this home screen. The back button is context sensitive. So that means if you're in an email, let's say you're on the internet, and you're surfing the internet and you're on a web page, if you press that back button, it takes you to the last page visited or back to your inbox if you're in an email. Whereas if you hit the home button, the circle, or swiped up from the bottom on iOS, that'll take you right back to the home screen. So it just depends what you want to do. They're used in 2 different situations. Now number 6. This is your accessibility menu or your shortcut menu. You'll drag down from the top of the screen, from anywhere on the top of the screen on Android, but for iOS, it's all the way up to the right where you see these 3 icons. You'll drag down and you'll see a shortcut menu. And we're going to get into that later in the video, what you can do with that menu. But just remember, that's how you get to it. Before we get into all that, though, I wanted to talk about some gesture tips. There's different ways of interacting with your phone, and not everybody knows all the different ways. So if you're having troubles and you're trying to do a certain thing and your phone's not cooperating, maybe try a combination of these gestures I'm about to talk about. It might help you out. So first is tapping. You simply touch your phone quickly. It's the most universal. It's what you think about when you hear the word touchscreen phone. You tap it once and you let your finger off right away. It's good for opening applications, selecting links, texting, and a lot of other things. It's by far the most common gesture. There's also a long touch. To do this, you touch and hold your finger for a second or two on the screen. This will usually open up some more options regarding the thing that you're touching. And you do have to be careful with this one, because if you move your finger around when you're long touching, sometimes it doesn't register the long touch and it thinks you're dragging the item around. So just be aware of that. You can also swipe, and that's it's basically just moving your finger from one end of the screen to the other, either up, down, or left, right. And this could be used for a whole lot of reasons, the most common of which is scrolling on a web page or scrolling up or down on an app so you can read more information. There's also the pinch. You can start with your fingers far apart, put them on the screen, and then drag them together. Otherwise, you can start with your fingers together, put them on the screen, and then drag them apart. And that will let you zoom in and out of apps. It's useful for getting pictures to look bigger, or if you're using a map to zoom in on a location so you can see more detail. And with these gestures, it's very important to be aware of the position of your other fingers. Say you're holding your phone with your left hand and you're trying one of these gestures with your right hand. If the fingers of your left hand are curled over even a little bit and touching the edge of the screen, it's going to interfere with your gestures. So you're going to want to pay attention to your left hand, or even the other fingers of your right hand if you're resting it near the phone. Try to only have the fingers that you're meaning to touching the touchscreen at any given time, and it'll reduce a lot of headaches. Now, if you try everything and something's still not working or the phone's completely frozen, the golden rule is just to turn it off and turn it back on. That fixes a lot of issues. And that goes for things that are different than cell phones too. For pretty much any technology, this is helpful for. But on your cell phone, you just hold the power button down for a few seconds, and then you'll see an option that'll say power off or restart. And you just select that, and then if you selected restart, it'll start right back up. Otherwise, you just hold your finger back down on it to restart it again. Okay, here's the accessibility menus I talked about earlier. That I didn't show you a picture of them, but I just said you could access them by swiping down from the top. So there's four main things I wanted to talk about. The first of which is how to connect to Wi-Fi. So I labeled it with a number 1 here. It's very similar for both operating systems. On iOS, you could see it's a symbol. It's like a wedge of pizza kind of with some lines. That's the Wi-Fi symbol. And on Android, it doesn't have the lines, but it's just a solid wedge. If you tap it once, you'll either turn it on or off depending on its current status. But if you touch and hold, which we talked about just a few slides ago, then it'll open up the Wi-Fi menu and it'll let you select which Wi-Fi network you want to connect to. So this is a short way of getting to that without having to go into your settings menu, which we'll talk about later. Second is your brightness. It's right above it or down to the right, depending if you're on Android or iOS. And if you are on iOS, it is a slider. You just put your finger on the white area and you move it up or down right by the sun. You can see it there by the number 2. And on Android, you move that sun, you put your finger right on the sun and you move it to the right or left. And that changes how bright your screen is or how dim it looks. And if you're having battery issues, that's one thing you can do to reduce the amount of battery that your phone uses. You can reduce the brightness as to an amount that's comfortable for you and still readable. You don't want to put it all the way down usually because it's too hard to read. But if you have it all the way up, it really does use more battery than if it's down. Okay, number 3 is automatic screen rotation preferences. So if you're ever lying in bed with your phone or something and you're maybe lying on your side and you're trying to read something and your phone tilts a little bit, sometimes it'll switch orientation and it could be frustrating for people. So you can tell your phone you want it to only stay in portrait mode, which means you could turn your phone sideways or upside down and it'll never change. The screen rotation will never change. To do that, just click by the number 3. It looks different. These are two different icons this time. On the iOS, it's a lock with an arrow around it by the number 3. And on Android, it's the phone with some motion lines outside of it. So you touch it once and it'll tell you if it's in portrait or auto rotate mode. Fourth, this accessibility menu is nice for turning on the flashlight, and the flashlight's pretty similar looking on both of these phones. You just touch it once and the light comes on, touch it again, and it turns it off. So now the settings menu. All those things can also be done in the settings menu for the most part. However, there's a lot more things to look at in the settings menu. So I just wanted to talk about the 3 main things that you have to go into the settings menu for. And the first one is how to set a password to access your phone, how to change the length of time that the screen stays on while you're using the phone, and then how to delete apps and free up storage. So first of all, setting a password. That icon on the previous screen, I guess I'll go back to that. It's a gear for both Android and iOS, but it looks a little bit different, so just keep those in mind. So these 3 things will require you to touch those, and usually they're on your home screen. Touch them once, and then you'll see these screens that are on the screen right now. So on iOS, you'll touch the settings, and then you'll scroll down until you see an option that says Face ID and Passcode. You'll touch that, and then it'll ask you to enter your passcode, or choose a passcode if you don't have one of the two, and then it'll let you save it. And that's good for security. If you lost your phone anywhere, you wouldn't want people to log in and get your information, so you can set a password. Some people don't take their phone very many places, and they don't want to do the hassle of typing in their password every time they turn it on, so they leave it off. It's completely up to you. On Android, you just click the gear icon, and then you click security, and then it's called screen lock, and it lets you choose. Android has more options. You can put a PIN number, a full password. There's a screen swiping, like you draw a shape on the screen. There's a few options you could do, but it does the same thing. It keeps your phone secure in the event that you lose it. Changing how long the screen is on is, you start the same way. You click the settings icon on your home screen, the gear, and on iOS you look for display and brightness option. Then you'll click the auto lock, and then this is how long before your phone will lock back out and you have to put the password in as well. And that's it goes from 30 seconds to 5 minutes or never. So I wouldn't recommend never, but you can 5 minutes isn't too terrible. Depends on how long you use your phone without touching it mainly. And on Android, you click settings, or you touch settings, and then you go to display, and then you choose, it's called sleep on Android. And they have a little bit bigger range from 15 seconds to 30 minutes, but they don't have never. So it's a little bit different. But 5 minutes is pretty good. It's pretty reasonable for a lot of people who are just learning their cell phones. All right, and you can also check the storage of the cell phone. You'd first touch that settings button on your home screen. And on iOS, you'd go to General, pictured on the left here. Then you'd look for iPhone storage. And then you have a whole bunch of information that opens up. At the top, you can see it says iPhone, and it has a bunch of different colored bars. And to the right of that, it also says 20, in this picture, 29.5 out of 128 gigabytes used. So this person is nowhere near the capacity of their phone. So they don't have to worry about the storage for a long time. On Android, you click the gear icon, and then you look for the word storage, and you can click on it to see more information. Or it also tells you just right on the storage option, it says right here, 50% used, 31 gigabytes free. So depending how much you use your phone, you might have to delete apps, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the presentation. But if you have 25% or more percent of your phone free, you shouldn't have to worry about it very much for quite a while, depending on if you're taking a lot of videos or not. Videos are pretty much the number one thing that takes up space on your phone if you take long videos. So this is how you delete the unwanted apps. It's very easy on iOS. It's pretty easy on both, really. But on iOS, all you have to do is use the touch and hold technique that we talked about earlier. So this red emoji is circled here. So you just put your finger on it, touch and hold, and then those X's will come up, you can see, and you'll touch that, and then it'll say delete emoji. And, well, this program's called emoji. It says deleting emoji will also delete all its data, and then you would just touch delete. So it's just that simple. You touch and hold on an app you don't want, press the X button, and then you do delete. On Android, this is in your settings menu. You'll go to settings, the settings gear like before. Then you're going to look for something that says apps and notifications. And then you'll touch see all apps, and this is pictured here on the right. And then it's called uninstall instead of delete here. And then you press OK. And that will, first of all, it'll remove the icon from your home page. And second of all, it'll free up space on your phone so that you can put other things on it. It can be very useful. Now, how do you get more apps if you want some apps? It's called the App Store on iOS, and it's called the Play Store on Android. So on iOS, you look for it. It's a blue background with 3 lines in the form of an A. You touch that, and then on the bottom right, there's a search option. You touch the search, and then you type up top. The search bar comes up. You type in whichever app you'd like, and you can feel free to browse too. And once you find one you like, you just touch the Get button. It's outlined in red here. The Get button will install it onto your phone permanently until you delete it, and it'll put it on your home page. Now on Android, you will look for what's called the Play Store. It's most likely on your home screen or in a folder on your home screen, which is just a collection of apps in one place. So you touch the Play Store, and then at the top it says search for apps. You might have to touch apps on the bottom depending on your version, but you touch, and it's the same thing. You search for what you want, you type it in, and then you hit install, depending on the one you want. Now, do try to read the reviews and take into account what people are saying about the app, because not all apps are trustworthy. So it's worth it to try and only stick with apps you might recognize or know, or that have really high reviews. And it's worth reading the reviews to make sure that they didn't cheat and maybe pay for people to review it, or use bots, it's called, to artificially increase their ratings. So just approach each one with a critical eye is my recommendation. Now, to search the internet, all phones come with a web browser built in. On iOS, it's called Safari. You can see it on the left, in the upper left of that image. It looks like a compass. You touch it once, and this is a lot like looking for an app. You then touch the top search bar where it says apple.com. You touch there, and you type in where you want to go. You can go to a search engine first like Google to find a site if you don't know the exact URL or the web address. Otherwise, you can type it in like this person did and put apple.com. Then you touch the blue Go button on your keyboard, and then it takes you to the website. I have a whole video series on Internet Basics that goes over this in much more detail that you can find on this channel as well. Now on the right, Android uses Google Chrome because Google makes Android, and Google Chrome is their web browser. So you can see it pictured there on the right side of the screen. It's green, red, yellow, and blue, and it's outlined in red here. You'll touch that. It's probably on your home screen. And then one or two things will pop up depending on how you used it last. The search for search or type a web address in Google. Sometimes it takes you straight to Google. Other times it kind of looks like the apple.com on the left where the search bar is at the top, and then you can just type in what you'd like there. Then you would just navigate to that site. So let's say you found a website you really like. In this case, let's say the post crescent on the left there. Let's say you want to create a shortcut on your home screen to it. Because usually what you do is you do what we just talked about. You touch the web browser, type in post crescent, go to it. That's a few steps. This will let you just touch the icon. It kind of acts like an app. You touch the icon, and then it'll take you straight to post crescent with one touch instead of multiple touches and typing it in each time. So to do this, you'll want to go to the web browser, follow the steps before, go to the site that you want. And then on iOS, it's a box with an arrow pointing to the top. You're going to want to touch that button. It's circled in red here. It's just to the right of the search bar. Then you'll go down to add to home screen option, and as soon as you touch that and you go back to your home screen, it's going to be there. And then you just touch it and it'll take you straight to the post crescent immediately. It's almost exactly the same on Android. You just go to Google Chrome, navigate to the site you want, and then in the upper right, it's 3 vertical dots instead of the box with the arrow. You touch the 3 vertical dots, and then you look down until you see Add to Home Screen once the menu comes up. And it does the same thing. It adds it right to the home screen, so it's one touch away. Now, adding a contact to a phone, that's another question I get a lot. To do that, you just have to go to your Contacts app on your phone. It's pictured on the left for iOS, and on the right, it just looks like a person, kind of like that green background. It looks a little bit like that. But on iOS, you just touch it once, and then all your contacts will come up, but you'll look for a blue plus arrow, and that's the add button. And I get a lot of questions about this because it doesn't say anything next to it, it just has a plus, and a lot of people don't think to touch it. So it could be a little designed a little bit more, I guess a little better in general. Maybe they could label it like add, but it is a symbol for add, but not everyone thinks that they need to be touching that to add somebody. But for your information, you do touch the plus, and then you can see it says new contact, and you can type their name, their phone number, their address, whatever else you'd like to put in about them. And then you can just touch their name later, and then you can dial their phone number without having to type it in each time. It's pretty handy. Now on Android, it's pretty similar, but instead of the plus button, you just touch your contacts, which is on your home page. And then in the bottom right, it's a person's head with a plus, which is a little more intuitive, I suppose, than just the plus. But you touch that, and it does the same thing. It takes you to the it takes you to add a person, add their information screen. So you can, you might have to touch the pencil. And it's kind of small here, but it's what this red line's coming off of on the right side. You can touch the pencil to edit an existing person as well. So once they're saved, though, then like I said, you can call them or text them from your contacts very quickly. And then there's also, I wanted to talk about how to send a picture via text message, because this is a very common question I get, and this is the last topic of the video. So on iOS, you want to select your Messages app, and for most people, it's the green app circled there, and it might be on your shortcut bar, or it's just on your home page somewhere. So you just touch the Messages app, then you'll select the recipient who you want to send it to, family or friend, or whoever it is, and then you touch the camera. You see it circled in the left picture, the camera or the photos flower icon underneath it. Doing that, if you touch the camera, it'll bring up your camera, and you could take a new picture and send it to the person right away. But if you touch the photos underneath it, it'll let you select from photos that you've already taken that are on your phone. So depending what you want, once you touch the photo, you'll see it go into the chat, and then you could just press the send button that you're used to sending for text, and that person will get it. Now on Android, you're going to look for, instead of the green chat bubble, you're looking for a blue one, and this can be different for different Android versions. But this is one of them. It's going to look like a chat bubble in some form. It's probably on your home screen or your shortcut bar. So you touch the Messages app, then you select your recipient, just like iOS. You just touch their name. And now this one's a little bit different because you'll touch a plus button instead of the camera icon. Though some do have camera icons, but the plus button is pretty nice because you can select many things from the plus button. You can select to take a new picture right there, or you can select to attach a photo or a few other options. And once you touch that, it'll put it into the message just like on iOS, and then you can press the send button, and your recipient will get it.